They're tiny. Trees and they are way too big. They are. Yeah, well, but they're lit up, you know, but they're like really tall and they fall the wrong way. Even though my house is party board, it's not gonna matter, right? Yeah, I know. I know. All of a sudden they just. Other.
Yeah.
Are you in charge? Oh, yeah.
But I mean.
Start and good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. We're gonna go ahead and start with introductions. So I'm gonna have the room up here.
Dave Couch, Tadrow, Owners Association.
Sorry, Blanker, Deschutes Market, the road, Firewise Community.
Claudia McDonald, River Northwest.
I'm Nick Leland, Deschutes County Administrator.
Heather Miller, Oregon State Fire Marshal.
Kevin Robinson, Central Oregon Fire Management Service.
Kyle Collins, Deschutes County Planning.
Patty Dare, Deschutes County Commissioner.
Greg Bryant, Deschutes River Woods.
Lauren Street, COIC.
Good morning, I'm David Mormon with the American Red Cross.
Greg Hyman, Fire Adapted Communities Coordinator for the county. If you are joining us online, can you please do your introduction in the chat for me for the meeting notes? And can you hear us okay online? Someone give me a thumbs up. I want to make sure. Looks like we have quite a few up on it.
Kevin doesn't give you a head.
Yes, I got it. Yeah, thank you. All right, so got a couple of announcements from Kevin this morning. So we have the fall fuel reduction grant coming up. Those applications are going to be open from September 1st through the 30th. We will post it on the website. We're also going to send out a press release along with an email, probably through the Project Wildfire channels. This year, they have $125,000, which is awesome. The awards are going to range from 1 to 5,000. If one note was that if your sole reason for applying for the grant is to do bin rentals, we advise you to wait for the bin rental program. We're going to do that again in January. So we want to use this for other projects, other fuel reduction projects. Another note, there were 6 communities who didn't turn in their reports for the last fall's grant. I think we're still waiting on a couple of them. Kevin sent out an email, so if you got that email, please send in your report. Yeah.
When are they due?
Huh?
When are those reports due then?
They were due last month.
June 30th.
Yeah, or June 30th. Yeah, so it'll go late. Right. So today we are hosting Lauren Street from COIC. She's going to present for us. And if you're ready, take it away.
Is it best to, should I set up right up here?
Yeah.
Hey. Can everybody see that okay? All right, well, thank you for having me. My name is Lauren Street. I'm with the Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council. Am I muted?
No, you should be. Yeah.
And I help to run and manage the Central Oregon Wildfire Workforce Partnership. And that is a partnership between Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council and the Heart of Oregon Corps. So COIC has youth crews that operate under the Youth Compass program, and Heart of Oregon Corps has all kinds of different youth programs that work with underserved youth. And it's all geared towards workforce development. This partnership was created in the summer of 2022. I think we started work in June of 2022. And this program was originally funded through Senate Bill 762. So the huge fire bill that came through, we got our funding through the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, through the Oregon Conservation Corps. And so they're all about getting youth crews out of the ground doing projects. They fund all sorts of projects, but through Senate Bill 762, they came up with funding that was specifically geared towards fuels mitigation, training youth how to do fuels reduction in their community. So there are programs all across the state that do similar work. Each program is slightly different, but most all of the crews are doing fuels reduction on private and public property. So being that we're, that was in the last biennium. So in this biennium, we were funded again through OCC. And we also got continued funding and support from the Oregon Department of Forestry through their Small Forest Land Grant. And of course, the Oregon State Fire Marshal's Office through their Community Wildfire Defense Grant. So we've been able to continue work since the summer of 2022, and we're hoping to do this type of work indefinitely. It's all grant funded, so we're always looking for additional funding opportunities, but that's how we're currently operating, and we're working right now to try to make sure that we have OCC funding in this upcoming biennium. So here are some program outcomes. And at any point, I'm gonna kind of start this from the youth aspect and move into the type of fuels treatments that we do. So if anybody has any questions throughout this, don't be shy. Feel free to stop me and ask any questions, since I'll be kind of moving through the entire program. So some program outcomes that we've had. So we've been running for 2 years. We've been able to treat 562.92 acres. Most of that, I would say the breakdown is that we do about 90% of our work on private property. And most of those are on properties that are between 1 and 5 acres. Any public land that we treat, it has to be within that wild and urban interface area. So it has to be beneficial to protection of life and structure. So we're working on private property that's we're working on public property that's very close to private property. Most of the time it's like it borders private property. We've been able to improve defensible space around 298 structures. We've worked with a lot of neighborhoods to do community and common ground that oftentimes gets overlooked, or there's not funding to treat that. Fuel treatments, I'm probably not telling you anything new, but are extremely expensive. We've seen treatments that are upwards of $1,500 to $2,000 an acre, and that's just not accessible to a lot of people, especially on a larger scale. The youth aspect of the program is unbelievably amazing. I feel so lucky to be able to work with this program, not only because we're working in fuels reduction, but we're focusing all of the work in communities that are underserved. We're working with elderly folks, people that are not physically able to do the work themselves, people that might not be able to afford this type of fuels treatment on their property. Properties that are slipping through the cracks of all the programs that, our region has to offer for fuels management. We're trying to pick those up with this program. But we've been able to serve 435 youth participants. And those are youth that have either been on our crews at COIC or through Heart of Oregon, or those are youth who have gone through trainings that we've offered. And youth hours served is just over 26,000 hours served in 2 years. So the hours served, that's all on fuel structure projects. So the youth that we're working with, we offer a whole slew of trainings that they can go through, because the whole premise of the program is not to retain all the youth and keep them on the cruise. It's workforce development. So we want to have them on the cruise, train them how to do this fuels reduction work, get them, nationally and state recognized, trainings and certifications. So we send all of them that are interested through the Red Card, training, which is nationally recognized. So they can go fight wildfire anywhere in the country. They can go work for the Forest Service, they can work for Oregon Department of Forestry, they can work for private contractors. And out of some of our trainings, up to half of the crew that will go through this training will go on and fight wildfire that summer. So we kind of see our crews as just a stepping stone to train them to then move them into either wildland firefighting or fuels reduction to start their careers off. So they go through all of the, S-130, S-190, L-180, all of those trainings. We also offer S-212 chainsaw certification trainings. And we do those in partnership with the Oregon Department of Forestry and sometimes the Forest Service as well. Heather has come and done home ignition zone trainings for several of our crews, because we kind of want to paint the picture for them, as to why they're doing this work. I don't know how many of you have done manual fuels reduction, but it is extremely hard. And so we like to have the youth as involved as we possibly can to kind of tell the story of this is the impact they're making in your community. This is the why behind what you're doing. So here are a couple of pictures. Here's a fuels reduction project we did down off of Vanderbilt Road. Our crews run chainsaws. They have, a big chipper and chip truck. So we're able to remove all the material from projects. Each crew is made up, they usually have between 4 and 6 members per crew. So this is pre-project right here. They're talking with their crew leader. So every crew has a crew leader and sometimes they have an assistant crew leader as well. This is a neat picture. We did a fuels reduction, a shaded fuel break for the Lake Villation Fire District. They've been working on this fuel break for a couple of years and we came through and helped finish it up. But we did that one in partnership with the fire district out there and the Oregon Department of Forestry. It's not very often that our youth get to see live flames on the ground. So we put them through the Red Card training. They've learned all about fire, but we're in fuels reduction, so they don't get to see very many flames. And so they're kind of biting at the bit by the end of their term to go fight wildfire, and they get really excited to see some flames. So with this project, we had enough snow on the ground that we had them go through, do all the fuels treatment, pile it up, and then ODF came behind and lit all of the piles. And it's pretty funny. They brought marshmallows and hot dogs out, and as they were dragging brush and making the piles and everything, they were just having a really good time with it. But that was a overnight trip. They got to stay in the bunkhouse. A lot of the youth, most of the youth that we're working with are underserved, and have experienced either challenges with dropping out of school or houselessness or whatever barrier they might be experiencing. Those are most of the youth that we're working with. So it's amazing to watch them work on these community projects and actually speak with our project partners and the property owners and get that one-on-one experience with impacting their community. This is a Red Card or a wildland firefighting training that we had a bunch of youth go through, and that was in partnership with the U.S. Forest Service. We've had 114 youth go through the Red Card training. And a lot of those, I don't have an exact number, but a lot of those have gone on to fight wildfire, which has been really neat. All the youth are out of Central Oregon, and the youth that we're able to put through the Red Card trainings are between the ages of 18 and 26, but most of the youth on our crews are between 18 and 24. So yeah, does anybody have any questions on these slides?
I do. What's your youngest age that you teach your chainsaw certification?
18. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes that's for chainsaw, sometimes for the, wild and firefighting courses. If you will be 18 by, the next fire season, we'll go ahead and put you through that, but that's not with chainsaw. So if they're 17 and will be 18 by the next, fire season, we'll put them through it. So here's a bunch of pictures from projects that we've done. Again, the, Red Card training certification, projects that we've done in Sisters. We've done some down in Lapine. Here's one of the COIC crews. So the crews between COIC and Heart of Oregon are slightly different. They're all workforce development. They all get paid just like a regular job to do this work, but most of the COIC youth are getting school credits. So they're youth that are either in alternative school or have dropped out of school and are rebuilding their credits. And so they come out and work 2 to 3 days a week on fuels projects for a 10-week period in the fall and in the spring, where the Heart of Oregon Corps crews work year round. And they are all AmeriCorps. In the Red Card certification training, we also take them to the smoke jumping base, and they get to get on the airplane and sit in the pilot seat, and they talk to the smoke jumpers. So they get pretty excited about that. Here's another picture of the Lake Felicianook project that we did, and we're able to retain 2 wildland firefighters from ODF during the winter. So that makes their work year round instead of having to try to piece together work in the winter. So that's been really amazing to partner with the Oregon Department of Forestry and how those 2 wildland firefighters stay on and train our youth during the winter. So they're out there on projects running chainsaw. They're talking to them about work opportunities, and just working alongside of them. Youth are able to ask them questions throughout, all the projects. And it's really neat to have someone from ODF, or 2 people from ODF kind of there consistently. And they've been there for 2 winters now. So they've developed, relationships and friendships with the crew leaders and the crew members. And it's a really neat, it's not job opportunities, but just being able to talk to someone on the ground consistently about work opportunities. This is one of the S212 trainings that we did in partnership with ODF. So I don't have an exact number of how many of these we've put on, but it's probably around 5 or 6 of those. So every time we get a new group of youth in, we do an in-house training. So Heart of Oregon has their own chainsaw training as the COIC, but we try to get them that certification so that they can take that on to wherever they want to work next and have that certification. This is a project out in Prineville, another Red Card certification training. And here is a picture of youth just wanting to pose with their chainsaw. The chainsaws, which happens pretty often. So this is one of the public property projects that we did out in the grasslands, where it starts to kind of interface with some structures. A lot of private properties backed up to that area. We did a bunch of juniper removal out there. I think we did about 60 acres out there. Here are our target areas. So when this program was being created, we took the wildfire hazard map and we overlaid it with the social vulnerability index map, and that kind of gave us these areas. So we do work in these 8 target areas, and this is where we do all of our outreach. We can work outside of these areas as long as it still follows, is this an underserved community? And is this high or extreme fire danger? But this is where we try to focus our work at. So each project, we take a scope of work document out. When we get project leads in, we get them from all over the place. We have project partners that send them to us. If a neighbor of someone that we're doing work on sees us, we get project leads that way as well. We do outreach at events. But every single property that we work on, we take this scope of work out and I meet with each property owner one-on-one and, just do a walk of the entire property and look at what needs to be done, what fuels need to be reduced. Of course, it's a voluntary program, so it's up to the landowner to approve, what scope we can work within. But most people just let us do the full scope of removing all ladder fuels. So we kind of follow this. It's a mix of FireWise and FBA and different standards. And we take this out, walk around, and then we've got an agreed upon scope of work. And then they sign it, which gives us permission to be on the property. And we've got a somewhat of a wait list right now, depending on what area, because we have crews that work out of Bend, Prineville, Lapine, Redmond, and Madras. So we've got several different crews. So depending on what area you're in, you're kind of put on a different waiting list, but usually we can get to projects relatively quickly and it's completely free of cost, because it's a training opportunity for you. So I always preface projects with, this is not a professional arborist crew, but they do really quality work. They're a little sillier and a little slower than an arborist crew, but they do really, really good work. I'm sorry that this picture is so pixely, but this was sent to me last Monday. And this is a property that we treated up off of Elk Drive. And that should ring a bell because that's where that 6,000 acre fire was just happening at. And this is a property that we treated last May with our youth crews. And so you can see where they limbed up. They took all the brush out from underneath the trees. And we did about 7 or 8 acres in and around a couple of homes and structures. And I received this picture from this property owner, and the fire was pushing towards her home. And she sent this picture and was just like, thank you so much for the work that your crews did. The fire service folks were able to stage in her driveway. And when the fire hit this fuels treatment, it rolled right onto the ground and they were able to just spray it out and move on instead of treating, fire that's in a canopy. So it's really neat to not only, see this in my inbox, like what an awesome way to start your work week, but also to share this with the youth and the crew leaders and the folks that are dragging brush every single day, doing that really hard manual labor. And they probably aren't thinking the entire time, this is to help my community. It's really, really hard work. So being able to share this with them and being like, maybe this didn't save the home, but I'm sure that it helped. And it's neat to see that the property too didn't lose all of the trees because it's just scorched earth, outside of the treated area. So it took all the juniper trees, but, so yeah, not only does the property owners here, they still have their homes and structures and chicken coops and everything, but they were able to keep their trees as well. So that was really neat to see.
Question. Right now, I think they're trying to make it where all branches are within 10 feet of the roof, I think. Is that what we're trying to change to?
Yeah, no closer than 10 feet.
I mean, just on the top one.
Yeah.
It used to be 5 foot.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to change it to 10 foot.
Yeah. And this is not set in stone. This is what we have now. And we're always looking for recommendations from fire experts. Heather attends our monthly meetings. We do a monthly COWWP meeting where we have folks from ODF, and Heather attends, and we kind of bounce ideas around and how can we improve this? How can we grow this? And so we're always looking for recommendations on practices and all kinds of things.
Lauren, do you know if this is part of the FireWise community that's up off the Oak Drive?
I don't think that they are an established FireWise community. This is right where Elk meets Belmont. I know that they're gonna start having fire meetings, and this is one of 4 treated properties that we did up there, and we've actually just bumped across the lane and we're on one right now. We have youth on it, this week. But no, I don't think they're an established Fireways community. They are
We're
gonna,
working on that.
yes, yeah, they are, and they're working on a fire plan for that area with maps and everything that show where treatments have been done, those kind of things. Anybody else have any questions?
So the work that you're doing is exclusively on private property?
It's not exclusively on private property. I would say about 90% of the work that we do is on private property, and the only work that we do on public property is to benefit private property. So it's stuff that's bordering private property. It can be challenging sometimes. I know, all the different agencies have their plans and they do such an amazing job treating, their public lands around private properties, but, we can't necessarily just pick an area that we'd like to do a treatment on public property and reach out to someone and just make that happen. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen before that. So we focus most all of our work on private property, for that purpose.
Thanks.
Anybody else have anything?
I have a question about your juniper removal. You said you did 60 acres. So exactly what did you do? Did you take out all the juniper? Did you leave a few?
Let's see. Well, actually, I can go back to this. This is, are you referring to this one?
I don't know. You just said you did 60 acres of juniper. So I'm just wanted to clarify,
Mhm.
did you take out all the juniper? Because if you see the pictures from 80 years ago, we had very few juniper.
Mhm.
And they're Roman candles, they ignite, they're using water every day. I just wondered what your plan was when you say you did 60 acres of juniper.
Yeah, so on this
More
one,
details.
yeah, I think where I referenced 60 acres, that was, one of the public properties, that we did. So that was in the grassland. So we followed, it's managed by the Forest Service, I think. So we followed a prescription that they had, and it, as you can see here, we just dropped them and made piles. So that was clearing all of them. And
You mean like there were baby ones out there?
Hmm?
Baby junipers in there that you were going through, or?
yeah, it was, I'm pretty sure it was all of them, in that grasslands area, because historically in the grasslands. So
I know.
we
They
took
take over.
them all, yeah. So that was the 60 acres that I was referencing, but we've treated 592 acres. Our region, Deschutes, Crook, and Jefferson County, there's a very wide range of fuels. So, South Deschutes County looks completely different than our projects in Jefferson County. Most of our projects are working with, juniper removal. But I do want to say again, it's a voluntary program. Most people don't want us to come on their private property and clear every single juniper out. So we're working within what the property owner would like to see for their property, while also trying to reduce as much of the ladder fuels as we can. So most people don't want us to take out larger trees. So we'll take out all the seedlings, and we'll follow a prescription that makes it as safe as possible without having to remove all of the junipers. If they'll let us, we will, but most of the time, people don't want that on their private property. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed in one of your previous slides that you had marked the Day Road corridor in
Yeah.
the Pine area
Mhm.
as one of them. And I wondered if you're getting any traction in that area, if you're getting, lots of they just had a good wildfire nearby. I'm sure it's got their attention now.
Yeah, we have done several projects down in Lapine. We have a COIC crew that is based out of Lapine. So I would say that the work that we do down there is more seasonal. We have crews down there in the fall and the spring. So right now during the summer, we're not doing any work down there just because we don't have a crew located down there. Our Bend crew will go down there if a property pops up that's next on the waiting list. But we try to leave the Lapine properties for our CYC crews. But yes, we've done some, off of the Day Road. That has been a challenging area to get consistent project leads. I'm not really sure why. But we did just apply for additional funding to focus, crew and outreach efforts solely on Lapine. So we have regional funding right now. But a pot of funding came available to be able to focus, and it's larger than this area. I think the map of the South Deschutes County that we did covers this entire area. So we'll be able, if that gets funded, we'll be able to focus a lot of efforts, and that'll be a 5-year funding period. And I think it's roughly $1 million to be able to have youth crews down there for 5 years.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, so it's absolutely on our radar. We've done projects down there, but it has been challenging to get consistent project leads down there.
So how does it work? Does the property owner contact you guys?
Yeah, right
Say,
now,
come out, take a look and see what you can do? And
exactly.
then is it a cost share program?
It's not, it's completely free. So, yes. So right now, all these projects call my phone number. Very lucky.
I was gonna say, what?
I brought 3 cards, so.
But is it economically, like the well, there was funding for wells, but in the state of Oregon, in order to qualify, you could only have an income of $60,000 gross a year for 2 people. And so all the people that had well issues that I was trying to help, nobody qualified. So
We don't look at
We don't.
financials. So a lot of our project leads come from project partners that are deeply rooted in their community, and they know our program. They understand it's for underserved communities. So they pass us project leads where they're like, this person has told they cannot get this work done themselves. Can you help? And so that's where we usually, if other resources are not able to help, that's where we kind of come in and pick up what's left. So we don't look at financials. Yeah, I think obviously if we pull into a home and, there are certain neighborhoods that I would say, this is not a fit for this program, but most of the time, projects that are passed on to us do fit the program. Yeah.
Curious, because you say this is all volunteer, so when you say funding, what is the funding for? Is that for your equipment, the gas, because your crews are all volunteer, correct?
No, so the projects are voluntary.
Oh, okay.
So just meaning that we're not gonna come onto a private property and be
Oh,
like,
okay, sorry.
we're gonna cut every single juniper and you don't have a choice in it.
So you're still paying the crew?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, it's workforce development, so they're paid just like a regular job, but yeah, so the youth that we're working with, for whatever reason, are not quite ready to enter into like the direct 9 to 5 work, so we're working with them. Most of them, we offer wraparound services, so, you're unable to get your driver's license, we'll help you do that while you're working in this program. If you're not able to make your rent this month, or you've been kicked out of your family home, we can help you with that. So they're offered wraparound services. So it's, a step further than, what a regular job would do. But we also pay them just like the regular job.
I'm really familiar with that. I actually sit on your EAC board.
Oh, okay. For
and-
hard work.
Yeah,
Sorry to just
I manage
completely
the Oregon
overexplain.
Free Experts, so we take some of your guys' kids.
Yeah.
When they want them, so when you said volunteer, I was confused for a second. I just
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
realize, But yeah.
No,
it's a great program.
I just completely overexplained that to you then.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's okay.
yeah, they're paid. Yep. And a lot of so Heart of Oregon has, a couple of different programs. They've got Youth Build, which they don't work with our projects, but they've got stewardship. They've got a High Desert Conservation Corps, which is more geared towards natural resources projects. And several of those programs are through AmeriCorps. So not only are they paid hourly, but they also get an education stipend that they can walk out of the program with, and that can be applied to all kinds of different things. They can apply that to, here at COCC, they can apply that to a 4-year degree. They can apply that and go get their Wolfer certification or do a NOLS course. So those education stipends are pretty neat as well, and that's through AmeriCorps.
So I'm with Upper Deschutes River Communities.
Yeah, we've gotten several project leads
Yeah,
through.
and we've worked with you before. You've done good work. Thank you. One that comes to my mind is off of Vanderbilt along Blue Eagle.
We
did
did the
some
common
commons areas.
property. Yeah, that was a great project. I think we did like 27 acres in there.
Yeah.
And the common acreage there, which this is, probably pretty consistent with many neighborhoods, but the common acres there were these thin parcels that just kind of weaved in between all the private homes.
Things like wildlife corridor.
Exactly, yeah, so we went in and treated those, and that was an awesome project, because the 27 acres that we treated probably benefited for 40 homes.
More probably,
Yeah,
but, I'm really pleased to hear that you have more capacity now to be able to help like individual property owners.
yeah.
So, we go out and do assessments. We're especially trying to help, low-income seniors.
Mhm. Yeah.
and Low-income, disabled
Mhm.
people that they can't do the work and they can't afford to hire someone to do
Yeah.
the work. So would it be possible, because in some cases, we'll go out and we'll write a prescription for,
Mhm.
typically it's half acre to acre properties in
Yeah.
our area. So if we did a prescription,
Mhm.
you could maybe assist in some of those
Yeah,
instances.
absolutely. Yeah.
Or you could go out and work with the property owner yourself.
Yeah, or like on Vanderbilt, I know we met a couple of folks from the Upper Deschutes communities, and we met them on site and did kind of a collective, walk through and did an assessment and came up with a scope of work, because a lot of times people want to work with folks that they're familiar with. So if you do an assessment, I'd be more than happy to meet you out on site. Our COIC crews are gearing up. I think they start in September for a 10-week program in the fall. And so we're looking for low-lying properties to be able to jump on down there.
And now, I know earlier on you had some restrictions on chainsaw use and you were trying to build up capacity with equipment and stuff, but it sounds like we're in a pretty good place now.
Yeah, so the COIC crews, the age range is a little bit different, because those are the youth that are going through and getting credits for school. So a lot of those youth are between the ages of 16 and 20. And so the youth that are under 18 cannot use chainsaws. So the Heart of Oregon crew, the entire crew, most of the time can run chainsaws. COIC, they're a lot more hand tool heavy, but they still do really good work. They've been able to do projects almost as quickly as the crews that are run fully with chainsaws. So, but all of our crew leaders on the COIC crews run chainsaws. So we do have quite a bit of capacity for mechanical removal.
Much needed, thank you.
Yeah, I'll definitely drop you a card. And we've worked with y'all before, and those projects have been amazing. Anybody have anything else?
Can you do any work on Juniper Ridge?
Outside of, let's see, where is that?
It's on the east side of Highway 97 going towards Redmond, right
Oh,
after
yeah,
the Four
okay, yeah.
Seasons mobile home park and yes,
Who owns the property?
well, the BLM, the county, the city, and then there is private before the mobile home park.
Yeah, I would say
Mile marker 132.
Yeah.
Several fires have happened
I
there.
think I've heard that.
Yes.
It depends. So private property owners contact us. We don't contact private property owners direct. We don't cold call people. We have such a high volume and such a wait list that we're working our way through. We're open to working in any locations. I do, want to say just in regards to that area, youth safety is a really high priority for us. So, in areas like that, I would just say youth safety is a really big concern. And we wait for private property owners to contact us. So if there's a private property owner that's out there that needs treatment, yes.
So it's not private property, it's primarily county and city owned property, so.
We can do projects on public property, but usually there's a lot of steps in between us talking to either the Forest Service, BLM, whoever it is, to be able to step on to do that. Like there are contracts years in advance that are like NEPA approved, have all the permitting and are ready for a fuels treatment. We usually can't just pick a spot and be like, hey, can we start this project next week?
Well, I guess my concern is that there's a high fire risk there because of the fuels, because of the unhoused activity there, like the March 132 fire. And there's a lot of private property around it that's very vulnerable.
Yeah, then we could treat the private properties.
Well, the private properties are treated.
Yeah.
But it's the source of the fire
I hear
that's
you.
not treated.
Yeah. Yeah, if public property agencies are looking for assistance, we can help with that. So that's just where I would leave that at.
So what is your wait list then?
Like how long? It just
Yes.
depends on what area, because we have crews that are stationed all throughout the region. So we have crews in Lapine, Bend, Redmond, Prineville, and Madras. So we kind of have different lists going on for each area. It's not all one big list. So right now, we've got a project going on in Madras. We're also working with Jefferson Fire and EMS. They've got kind of an internal ongoing list and they pass us a lot of project leads. But if you were to call with a project up there right now, we could probably get it in the next 2 weeks. Where, you know, Redmond is a little further out, probably a month. It just depends. Yeah.
Do you have a preference to work with like groups of homeowners or property owners or individual, or there's no?
Not necessarily. I think that we are, for the most part, just looking at, is this extremely high fire risk? And is this an underserved community? If it meets that criteria, I don't think that, I will say internally, we do look at consecutive work. So when we go out, like the Vanderbilt project that we
Right.
did, or like projects that we've done in Crooked River Ranch, we try to treat, we love to treat neighboring properties just to get that consecutive
Right.
fuels treatment. We don't try to avoid doing the patchwork projects because we want to do work where it's needed and it's still needed in those areas. But we do really like to see those consecutive, projects being.
I was just bringing that up because in South County, so many of the communities are not organized. They
Yeah.
don't have
Yeah.
homeowners organizations. And, they're kind of like independent thinking, you know? But, like the gentleman over here was saying, a lot of times, people are concerned because, okay, I've done something on my property, but I'm at risk because everything that's around me, you know,
Yeah,
whether it's public lands or other.
yeah, you're
private
only as safe
properties.
as your neighbor's property. Yeah,
So-
it definitely
So
affects your
anytime we
property.
can get like, we call them spark plugs. You
Mhm.
know, anytime we can get, someone that lives
Yeah.
there to talk to their neighbors
Yeah.
even. So if we could kind
Yeah.
of bundle, if we could kind of bundle,
Mhm. Yeah,
groups
I was
of
gonna say
houses,
it's-
that would help. Yeah, that would
In
work
in
really good.
Shrewsbury Woods, in Shrewsbury Woods, she's started with one property and then there'd be 3 or 4 properties right next to them. So she's able to do like 3 or 4 properties right next to each other in a group, and there've been several locations
Yeah.
like that.
In each community that we've worked in, we do try to identify, okay, who is the person that is plugged into this community that knows, you know, their neighbors, and for New Shrewsbury Woods, that's Gregory. You've been passing us projects for 2 years now. And we've slowly been chipping away at them. I would be interested to go back and look at all the projects and see how many acres we've done down there, but with the mix of the projects that you're doing with your funding and the stuff that you've been passing us, I think we've been able to do a pretty good chunk of properties, but yes, so we're never gonna turn away from projects that are individual property owners that, yes, their neighbors are not being treated right now. We're not gonna turn away from those, but it is awesome to have, you know, an entire roadway that's like, we want you to treat this whole corridor. We really like this project.
We've been picking away for like 20 years.
Yeah,
And mostly we've been helping individual.
yeah,
And we've, we've helped a lot. And then sometimes our community, excuse me, our community will reach kind of a critical mass where the neighbors start to see the work being done and then they want it done. But
yeah,
so often
yeah.
they don't have the skills or confidence to do it themselves.
Or even the tools to do it. If you don't have a truck
it's
and
really
a trailer,
expensive
it's
to have.
extremely limiting to do this work. Because then what do you do with it? If you've limbed all your trees and taken all the ceilings out, trying to get that somewhere is extremely challenging too. But yes, we love projects like that. And we also, with the youth schedule, so I wish that I had access to these youth crews just year-round, full-time on-field projects because the work is there. The Heart of Oregon has been operating for 25 years and has long-standing contracts with, and same with COIC, they have long-standing contracts with the Forest Service, with BLM, with folks like that to do other things. It's not just entirely fuels, both organizations. So they work on campground cleanouts, they work on building trails, they work on other contracts through other funding sources. And so I have to work around their schedules as well. I would say that most of them are working on fuels most of the time, but it's not 100% of the time. So projects that we're able to, like the Vanderbilt project, we didn't do that in one fell swoop. Like they weren't out there for 3 weeks straight only doing that work. We have to piece it in where it's like, okay, 3 days this week, we're gonna go do this fuels project, we're gonna jump off of it, they've got to go build trail for 2 days over in the Ochicos, and then we're coming back. So projects that we can kind of pick up, put down if they need to, and then come back to finish, really works well with their schedules.
And you said something about chipping away that kind of got my attention. It might be a small point, but how do you chip the material? How do you handle it?
We do, yeah, we've got.
And I've heard that there's a source where it's like online or something, where locations in the area that want chips.
Chip drop, yeah.
So you can usually, chip drop.
Yeah, that's what we use.
And
So
does that
we've
work
got
pretty
two,
good? Does
yeah,
that
we've
work
got
pretty
two chippers and then one chip truck. And so we're sharing those chippers across the entire region. So with all these fuels projects on, we don't chip every single project. It's up to what the landowner wants. So like I said, right now, this week, we've got a crew working out on Elk Lane or Elk Drive. And that property owner, feels completely comfortable having us build small burn piles for him to burn during the winter. That's awesome because we can get in there, do the fuel treatment, and then head on to the next one. Because chipping a project sometimes can take just as long as actually doing the fuel
Right.
treatment.
So you'll hand pile them and then.
We can hand pile them, but we also take chippers if the property owner's like, I don't have the capacity, I don't feel
Right.
comfortable burning this.
Yep.
I don't know what to do with this material, we can swap it. And, I think.
I mean, the fire districts are
Yeah, this is,
pretty nervous about people burning that
Yeah.
really don't know what
yeah,
they're
we
doing.
would not ever do that. Like the project, this is Vanderbilt right here.
Yeah.
We would never recommend that in that location. We only do it in areas where it really makes sense. So here they'll stage all of the material, chip it, and then we're on chip drop and we've been able to donate almost 100% of the chip that we've created.
Excellent.
Mhm. So here's some before and after photos of projects that we've done. These are in and around the Powell Butte area. So this was all of juniper work, thinning juniper trees out to a better distance of spacing. We'll limb all the trees up. We'll take all the brush out from underneath the drip lines of trees. A lot of these properties had a pretty good handle right in and around their home, like that 0 to 5, 0 to 15 feet. And we see that pretty often where people are able to do that kind of like landscape management, but when it comes to, I've got, 3 acres of juniper that's just absolutely unruly, and I don't have the capacity to do that. That's where we're able to step in and kind of do that, 0 to 100 feet, past that. So, you can see the difference here of being able to look underneath all of the trees, that thinning a bunch of the trees out. We take seedlings out that are growing into canopies of other trees. In areas like South Deschutes County where you get the really, really dense lodgepole pines, we'll go through, and that was like the Vandervert, property where at first you can't even walk through. And we'll take most of those and leave,
And
ponderosa.
the good trees are being encroached by the overgrowth.
Yeah.
And they're all drought stressed.
Exactly. And then with the lodgepole pines, if we've got a huge clump of those, they're growing in a cluster, we'll pick, 2 or 3 that are the healthiest looking ones, space them out so that they've got room to grow, because they get really overcrowded and they start to, will end up structurally failing later on. So it's way easier to take a seedling out that's big around versus something that's lost a top that's this big around. Here's some more. These are 2 other juniper projects that we did. So you can, so this is what the juniper treatments look like you're asking about. So this is what they look like on private property. Again, private property owners usually do not want us to come in and clear everything. If I had it my way, there would be, there would be like 2 or 3 junipers left on this property, but that's just not what.
I've been told 4 junipers cluster together so you can give the wildlife a protection spot if it's bad weather.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, 4 juniper an acre would be perfect. in this
Yeah.
world.
Yeah, but this is usually what it ends up looking like. And if we're not able to remove as many larger junipers as we'd like, we make sure to get that clearance where if a fire is coming through, it's gonna roll onto the ground and be far more manageable for fire services rather than a fire being in the canopy. Because it just can't exist when there's not fuel connecting to the ground.
Question on the last picture, just because we run into this a lot with our business.
Over here?
The pine needle removal.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys are currently working into your program? Because we just don't have the time to
Yeah,
do pine
it's-
needle removal.
Yeah,
So I'd be happy to refer all of our clients that need more of that landscape management that are on a budget to do that. Because I know in Deschutes River Woods, it's a lot.
yeah.
So,
It's not something that we're focusing on exclusively. I know for this one, it was extremely
Yeah.
deep and the owner had been piling it up previously, so it was really easy for us to go through. We had the trailer there, we were able to load it in really quickly.
Right.
But we almost never, except for clearing it away from structures, we'll rake it away, but usually we don't take it off site. We're, between the top and the bottom,
Right.
the pine needles are not a concern here. And I don't want to speak for fire services, and feel free to chip in if you would like to, but we're worried about that connection between
right, the ground.
the ground
Yeah.
and the canopy. So that is our biggest focus. On this one, we did remove some, but that's not something that we're usually showing up to do.
Yeah, on the pine needles, I frequently run into people that are like so concerned. And maybe they have small acreage even, or even if they just have like
Yeah.
half acre or acre. And some of them go out there and they're raking acres of pine needles and I try to let them know that they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, under a large ponderosa, for instance, you'll have pretty heavy
Yeah.
accumulation and dead branches and
Yeah.
everything. But for the most part, we tell people that the critical thing is to like not have that for 5 feet from your house.
Yeah,
So you don't
exactly.
have to be raking pine needles,
Yeah.
100 feet away.
Yeah. And we try to balance like what is going to be most beneficial.
They're actually a pretty decent ground cover. And when they do burn, they kind of smolder or throw up.
Yeah,
or
the
really-
flame height's just
Yeah, really lovely.
not our concern. We're trying to get these properties to a point where it's manageable for the property owner. So if you look at the top and bottom one here, this is far easier for a property owner to come out here and pick up pine cones and rake pine needles, where that same owner might not be able to operate a chainsaw, might not be able to do brush removal, might not have a truck and trailer to remove it. That's very inaccessible work to most people. This is more accessible,
This
I
more
would say. So
low
that's just
maintenance.
not what we're trying to focus our effort on.
They can manage it with low maintenance.
Exactly, yeah. Does anybody have questions on any of the before and after photos or treatments that we've done?
How did you make the snow go away in the first?
So the crews did rake it, no, I'm just kidding. So I take all my before and after photos for reports that we have to submit. And so I get the before and after, well, I get the before photos before the project, but after photos, I'm a little slower to show up and take the after photos because I've got, yeah, they're due every 6 months. So that'll be some of the seasonal changes there. And I think that's the end of my slide.
Very good. Thank you.
And does anybody have any questions about youth that we're working with? I did have a picture that I like to show if I can find it on here really quick. Or let's see.
You may have mentioned it, but just kind of what's the size of the total part of Oregon population? And you talked about they have different avenues they can work on, not just fuel treatments, but can you break that down?
That is certainly getting outside my wheelhouse, but and maybe you said you're on the board for so maybe pitch in where you can, but Heart of Oregon, they've got youth build, so they build Habitat for Humanity homes. That's based out of outside of Sisters. They've got stewardship that they help the landfill.
I just want to know how many kids are.
Oh, gosh. You know how many? It's very big.
It's gotten fairly large over the last couple of years, I think, with COVID and needing a place to disperse. Yeah, I think it's a lot.
I would say several hundred. And so we've had 435 youth go through our programming, and most of that, I would say 70 to 75% of that is Heart of Oregon youth. So that's in 2 years. So they've got several different programs that are running at the same time. So it's very big.
I think it's mostly spread out too, like you said, it's in every different community, so it's Lupine and Madras and Prineville, so it might not seem like a lot in one little spot, but with the whole entire group together, it's quite a few.
They had a thrift store in Madras that they ran for a long time, teaching youth like customer service, working with people, like working within a business. They also have, stewardship works at the landfill. They've got High Desert Conservation Corps. Am I missing any of
There's so many. I did the job fair the other day at college, and the amount of different groups that I didn't realize because they were all wearing a different shirt that said which group they were in was a lot.
They've got the summer.
So I'm starting to lose count too, because I didn't realize they've made so many groups in the last year.
COYCC, Youth Conservation Corps, runs during the summer, and that's rotating. They've probably got 9 crews that are working on conservation projects during the summer. They have Camp Lead, which is working with youth with different abilities and special needs. And we have had them on field inspection projects. They do all kinds of different projects during the summer. I'm sure I'm forgetting other programs, but Heart of Oregon's awesome. They have a lot of different programs.
I think you can find it on their website too, all the different programs.
Yeah.
I've got a question too, is pertaining to, you were saying it's difficult for you to get, it takes time for all the permits for all the city, state, the federal. Is there a way of sort of working with these organizations to try to make it easier or faster to get these permits approved?
I mean, they,
Because you know, you might be talking 4 or 5 years down the road or something like that. And that's not a program for some locations or any location. It's not approved. We want to get done now or next year or something.
I can't really speak for the Forest Service, but some areas, especially if it involves the wildland
Right.
urban interface,
Right.
or if it's areas that they've entered into before and stuff, they can get what they call a categorical exclusion, which is an abbreviated NEPA kind of process. And so instead of it being 4 or 5 years and you've got like hundreds of pages of boilerplate stuff to try to make it bulletproof,
Right.
you know, so that so that it doesn't get shot down for some reason. They can abbreviate it considerably, but it still can take a year or two to get those done because they have to set it up and Forest Service is in particular it's just like
You're through the US government, so.
it's like an aircraft carrier compared to your rowboat.
But, you know, the county or the city, you would think they could make it easier for you.
Oh, of course we could.
That's what I'm thinking, you know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if it's county-owned property and stuff like that, you know, they don't have those same kind of restrictions.
Right.
and yeah,
I'm just-
I certainly can't speak to any of the permitting or what folks have plans, but I know that each agency does have a plan for fuels. And I would recommend trying to get a hold of that plan just to see, you know, what the time frame is on different treatments that they have, because they do an astronomical amount of work around communities, and I think, you know, they're, you know, like outside of Lapine with the Darlene fire, you know, the BLM did an exorbitant amount of fuel treatment that I know helped with that fire. And I had no idea about that until the Darlene fire happened. So, I would recommend getting a hold of one of those plans. I can't speak to any of the permitting or how long it takes, any of that. But it is interesting to look at the plans and see.
And they don't treat it the same way either, like BLM, for instance. Once they go in to do it, they really open it up. You know, they're not concerned with basal mass and stuff. They're just trying to do it so that they don't have to go back there, you know, so frequently.
Yeah, I just wanted to share this letter from one of the owners that we work with who is out in Sisters. She wants to remain anonymous, but I think she's been, and it says in the letter, so I shouldn't try to make a number up. I think she's been evacuated at least 3 times in the last couple of years due to fire danger, and we treated 20 acres for her because it was going to benefit neighbors as well. And that was just an extremely awesome project to be on. Is that big enough for y'all to see?
That's a lot of letters.
How did you find you guys?
Through ODF.
Right.
ODF sent
I
us
see
that.
that
right?
through after that she was, has a lot of people.
Mhm. And that project was during the winter, so we had the two seasonal wildland firefighters that work with ODF, they were on the ground on those projects. Yeah, so, you know, youth being able to meet folks like that every day, I think it can be hard sometimes with some entry-level positions, being able to feel connected to the community and feel like you're making a difference, but when they get to be on the ground interacting with folks like that, that truly are providing life-changing services, there's no, I mean, what can you compare to that? I mean, that's one of the most meaningful things that I think you can give to a youth. Yeah.
In that letter, I tried to read it all. She was talking about how she had this dread because of the extreme fire hazard that she saw all around her. And then that her, at least when she wrote the letter, she said, now I chuckle because it's so safe. And I think that people can get like a false sense though, too.
Yeah.
You know, I've done X, Y, Z now.
Yeah.
I'm protected.
Mhm.
And Heather with fire marshals can speak to this better than I can. But most of the homes that burn down and the community disasters are from embers.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot more general understanding now of what defensible space
Yeah.
is, you know, treating the landscape around your house.
I mean, it's far beyond.
But the structures themselves
Yeah.
are, I just did an assessment this week in the Lapine area.
Mhm.
And it was hard to find ladder fuel and stuff to help them. You know, I found enough things
Yeah.
to make it worthwhile, you know, assisting this property owner. But, and I shared it with her too, and I made a lot of notes and stuff. Her house was the most flammable component in that
Yeah.
space. She had a wooden house with wooden decks
Mhm.
and wooden fences attached to her house and between her house and garage, which was kind of like a lean-to kind of, you know, I mean.
Yeah.
So when I look around, I go, well, even after we've helped them mitigate the fire risk from ladder
Yeah.
fuels, she is really vulnerable if there's any embers in the
Yeah.
area.
And things are never 100%, right? Like homes usually, most of the time do not ignite from radiant heat. It is embers. So, you know, how do we get as many properties as
So it's more than a
possible
head scratch, it's more than a
Yeah.
head scratcher, how to increase people's awareness and understanding of what they can do.
Yeah.
The assistance programs are starting to come in,
Mhm.
such, you know, I mean, doing wonderful work for the defensible space. But I don't know, you know, I think that there's commercial opportunities there too, you know.
Oh,
People could
absolutely.
advertise,
Building
hey,
stuff.
we can help
Yeah.
make your house more ember-proof, you know, fire hardening,
Yeah.
it's usually called.
Yeah, certainly. And I think.
But that,
the
what I'm
next-
saying is that's not being done very much right
No.
now. And so
Yeah.
people are still at risk, maybe more risk than they realize, because you could clear cut everything
Yeah.
around you and still your house could burn
Yeah.
down, and then your house could ignite the house
Yeah.
near you and stuff.
Yeah, and we certainly have a full understanding of that. I think on the second slide where it said 98 defensible or homes defensible space improved. That's why we don't say
Yeah.
298 homes safe,
Yeah,
because
you
that's
can't-
never, well, you know, what am I gonna do to my property to make it more inviting and safe for fire services to, you know, fight a fire if it's approaching, you know, what improves my chances? There's never 100%.
Right.
So,
I have an online question for
okay,
you. Bob Pulley's asking, are the crews fully insured so that there are no personal liability for property owner if someone's injured?
yeah, we have full, just like if an arborist crew were to show up to your property, we have full full insurance for both organizations.
And then I was wondering, do you often look for crew leads? Does you have like crew leads?
We do, yeah, those positions, there's a crew lead position open at COAC right now. And so that is structurally a little different than the crew leads at Hardin Morgan, but, I know that Hardin Morgan often has crew lead positions as well. There are summer crew lead positions that are open every year for that, seasonal, which are great for, we get a lot of college students, those kind of things. And then we have year-round crew leads, for both organizations.
I get often get people asking me if there are jobs out there, so.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely recommend checking out the COIC site and the Hardin Morgan site for jobs.
Alright, do we have any other questions online for Lauren? You either speak up or write it in the chat. Good.
Alrighty. Okay. Well, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Lauren. That was awesome.
And I've got
Great work.
3 cards here. I'm sorry.
Take a picture.
I do want to say really quickly, we are in the process of moving to, an online application process. We don't want that to be a limiting factor, so I am always open to getting emails and calls about projects. If people aren't able to apply online, but we are gonna put that up on the COIC website so that people can go on. And then, we'll have just a couple of questions for people to answer, where do you live? And then we'll come take a look at fire danger, all of those things, but it's just a way to kind of compile, and continue the list of projects, because we're hoping that this work will go on indefinitely. So that will be available soon. Yeah, did I see your? Did you
Cody said I'd like a card.
Oh, great, okay.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna move to round table. We have about 15 minutes left. So we'll start on the third room.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say?
I do not.
No? Heather?
Just that we're gonna do a wildfire home protection strategies class this Saturday, the 24th, down in Lapine at the Activity Center. Starts at 8 o'clock, runs until noon, and so Ariel and I, Melissa's gonna help out, and we're gonna add a little bit more of a assessment component to it. That's been requested by UDRC to talk more about how to actually go out and do an assessment, so that'll be a piece of it. So it's for free. I posted in the chat the sign up for that, or let me know and or email me and I can send that to you if you'd like that flyer individually. And then I also shared the interest form for future classes. We have been able to get that class authorized for continuing education credits for arborists and landscape contractors and realtors. And so if folks are looking for continuing education credits, we can look to schedule those classes out in the future. We just have to apply to have those classes authorized. So it takes a little bit of time for that. That's what I have.
Thank you.
For Kaufmas, just want to give a quick fire conditions update. With the obvious lower temperatures and moistures, we've reduced our fire danger rating from extreme to high. But even with that, we still have a month plus of fire season ahead of us. And looking at that, we have not yet reduced our industrial fire precaution levels down from 4 to 3 or even below that. Just based on the still projected, 1.5 or so. And then our fire restrictions are still on stage 2. So that's all I have.
This is my first meeting, so I'm a little unsure what roundtable means, other than maybe like top of mind topics. I think the only thing I can think of right now is I manage Central Oregon tree experts. I'm getting a lot of calls right now from homeowners that are experiencing getting letters from their insurance companies saying they're going to be dropped if their defensible space is not cleared up. So we are doing a ton of LFR, but Lauren, I'd love to connect with you because some of those larger properties, they don't have the funds to do that sort of bigger project. But being dropped by your insurance because there are so many fires in Oregon is a big deal. We do a lot of more closer, right next to your home, defensible space. So if anybody is in need or needs help, we have 10 shippers and 12 trucks, and we're probably one of the bigger equipped companies here in town that would love to help anybody that needs it.
What was your name?
Megan,
And you work with,
Central Oregon Tree Experts.
thank you.
I see your trucks everywhere.
Yeah, quite a few.
Don't think I have any big updates for the group. The one thing that I will plug, I'm sure everybody here is already aware, the newest draft version of the state wildfire hazard map has been released. ODF is no longer taking comments from the public. That ended on Sunday, the 18th. The next step in this process, so everyone's kind of on the same page, is they're gonna compile all those comments, potentially make changes to the map, may or may not. We've also submitted some comments from Deschutes County in a variety of formats. But ultimately, the final version of that map will be released on October 1st. That's when we expect to see what the final version is, and then presumably the rules that ultimately will come along with that. But will be some kind of implementation period. We don't have a firm estimate of exactly how long that's going to take, but it'll probably lead it to 2025 before people actually need to refer to the map when they're considering development.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Let's see, Upper Deschutes River Communities, we have two different, dispensable space programs that we've been running for a few years. One of them is an incentive program, where we reimburse the first $500 towards people creating defensible space around their homes. And, it's gotten more and more popular, and now with this being such a fire season as it is, we opened up for applications and we just got flooded, and we had to close down the program shortly afterwards because so many people have signed up. So I was really happy that you presented today, and I look forward to maybe being able to work with you guys. And there's just like so much need.
Mhm.
And there's whether you're on high risk or not on the map, speaking for South Deschutes County, the whole landscape is at risk.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We did have good news from Deschutes County. We had applied for a significant federal draft grant, and it's the only federal money that I've signed for the last 2 years, I think, because the feds are, the money is just our debt, our inflation is what we're now at 35 trillion. But anyway, I did sign this one, and our application is still in the queue. It looks like we may have an opportunity to get that funding, and it will really focus on South County, the water and the cleanup. So that's the really good news. After this meeting, I'm going to go tour the 45 acres we have right in the Redmond City for moving the transients. As of last Tuesday, in Bend, we had 8 fires that have been started by the transients. So feeling the pressure of getting them moved, and the 45 acres has got a great spot for Redmond, for that area. So yeah, working on it every day, but that grant funding, we should know in I think a couple of months if we get that, and it should be an incredible boost for South County. So yeah, I know it was definitely something worth applying for. Besides the worrying about the water level, water quality, the nitrate levels and everything, it goes together with clearance. So
Thank you.
Greg Brown, Deschutes River Woods. Right now we have 320 cubic yard dumpsters out. This is their second week. They'll be out for another 5-6 weeks. And then also, not my contractor for laddering up location properties. He's got about 25, and he'll do that probably after the fire season when he's not busy. And then in the next 2 weeks, I'll be working with him and also with Lauren to try to get more properties. So
I would just mention too, right along with that, Great. The contractors are really working under pretty strong restrictions right now as far as like when they can work, what they can do. There's I think there's a 3-hour fire watch now, and they have to carry a huge quantity of water. So it's harder to get the work done right now.
I think you've heard enough of my roundtable.
Never.
So for the Red Cross, this time of year, we kind of always call our disaster season because not only we have wildfire season, we have floods and hurricanes in other parts of the country. So it's kind of an all hands on deck time of year. I want to let people know that obviously we've been very busy with sheltering responsibilities over the last month or so. And the Red Cross has put in place an expanded organization to respond to sheltering needs for wildfire evacuees, not just in Oregon, but it's kind of covered, that organization is covering Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. So it's bringing in extra resources. And in fact, right now, there are sheltering teams on standby in Bend, Klamath Falls, and Kennewick, so that they can respond if there's a long-term sheltering need anywhere in the Northwest, they can be ready to do that. One thing that does is it frees up the local volunteers to do the regular stuff we do, like helping out folks after individual house fires and things like that. And we'll keep that organization in place as long as it's needed. We're working really closely with the Oregon Emergency Management Department and their Emergency Coordination Center to make sure we're aligned. So that's it.
All right, does anyone online have anything to share for roundtable today? Go ahead and speak up or raise your hand, or you can enter into the chat. I can relay. No? All right. One thing I will add about the insurance topic is we just had a meeting that Commissioner Bill Chang organized last week with a bunch of personnel in the fire industry as well as insurance agents and a few other insurance players, as well as Senator Jeff Golden. I'm going to be writing up the notes from that meeting, and I'll probably share them with Project Wildfire if anyone's interested. It was a really good meeting. Kind of brought just kind of more questions, but also like this is kind of the beginning of, I think, a good group of people that can start working towards maybe finding some answers to the issue.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, the really important thing is, and I'd asked the legislators to work on this a year ago, was the Oregon Fair Plan. It was limited to 600,000 value. I'm like, you could see this coming. It's a national issue. The insurance industry is clamping down all across the country. But anyway, they are now working on it, and they have raised the limit to, or they will be raising it to $1 million. But I'm like, guys, you got to get ahead of this. And thank goodness we do have our insurance industry on our Zoom today.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Andy, for attending these meetings. I do believe it's really important. Apparently some days they will approve you and the next day the underwriter won't. So it's really, you've got to do everything you can. But as I say, the house I knew that burned up in a development had a terribly huge screening on their attic. And that's really where a lot of house fires will start, because the embers will blow into the house, and then you're really, you're at incredible disadvantage. So, really look at your house too, besides doing outside. You've got to, and if your insurance companies are all like raising the premiums, and you really don't want to attract too much attention because you don't want them canceling your policy. But then again, you want to be protected.
Looks like Andy has something to say.
Oh, good, Andy. Thank you so much.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say what Commissioner Dare was referencing, and that was a good meeting. I kind of feel I got a little heated and passionate and overboard, but I think the point was made, at least from the insurance side of things, of the struggles, and that from the agents and sisters, from the agents in Lapine, we have a coalition effort trying to find better solutions for our policyholders that are struggling. So I just wanted to say thank you for letting me be involved, because I learn a lot every time I get to talk to our community leaders and our state leaders. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being there.
So one other plus out of that meeting was finding out that Farmers is now offering or possibly offering discounts for Firewise communities. So if you are with Farmers, it's only been USAA that we've known of that has offered a discount, but now Farmers is starting to possibly allow that as well. So check with your local agent to see if that's a discount.
My USA went up 30%, and talking to people in Sun Rivers, theirs went up 30% also. So I'm thinking like they just said, okay, we're going to go up 30%.
Yeah, mine did as well.
Yeah, I know. It's a wonderful world. I was counseled by them when the fire went around our house. And I said, everything's burned. And they said, it doesn't matter. It took them 2 years to come back. So you don't really want to lose that policy.
All right, unless anyone else online has anything, we're just about at time. And I want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you, Lauren, that was an awesome presentation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Have a great rest of your day.
This is like, yeah, we don't, we have to get it together, right? So how can we?